Oh, yes. This is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show, sponsored by Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help people maximize their use of Pardot and Salesforce. CheshireImpact.com. Bam. Hey, everyone. Before we get started with the show, I'm excited to announce two things. First is that my book, Marketing Automation Unleashed, is now live on Amazon. So go get it. The second thing is we have a new sponsor, Qualified.com. I'm going to tell you about them in the next couple seconds here, and also how you can get a free copy of my book thanks to them. So who are these people? Well, Qualified is the #1 live chat and chatbot platform for Salesforce and Pardot. Sales reps can have real-time, personalized conversations with who? Your hottest website visitors. So I want you to know, I don't just partner with anyone. I genuinely love these guys. And the platform, we use it at my company. Our sales team loves it. We've closed a lot of deals based on it, had a lot of great conversations with prospects too. So, a lot of marketing these days is what? Hurry up and wait, right? Fill out this form. And then if we pass you over to sales, maybe you'll swap 6 emails with them to find a good time to talk. But what if a prospect is doing research right now and they would chat now? Why not give them the opportunity? So the best part is your company actually decides what leads are worth a live chat. There's a lot of noise out there. You don't want to talk to everyone. So Qualified actually connects to Salesforce and Pardot, and it's able to pull in lead and contact information so you can specifically know if you're talking to a VIP, a VP, a decision maker. It's really kind of like magic. Now, if you don't know who someone is, well, what happens then, Casey? Well, that's when the bots come in handy. Chatbots can then ask questions to further qualify a lead, find out if maybe this is someone you do want to talk to. And they can book meetings while your sales team is out. And they can wake up the next morning with a bunch of meetings on their calendar. Now, here's the promo. If you are a company that wants to give your sales team this ability, right, to be able to talk to decision makers right when they're on your website, do this. Go to qualified.com and start a chat, right? They use their own tool, of course. Start a chat. Tell them that Casey sent you. If you have Salesforce Pardot, when you schedule and then do a demo, they will send you a free copy of my book, Marketing Automation Unleashed. Not bad, right? Well, it's only while supplies last. So hop on this thing today. And that's it for sponsors. Let's get to the show. All right. It's live. We're cranking. We're recording. This is going to be a good one. I'm excited, everyone. I can't wait to introduce you to my guest today. She is a marketing leader and a strategist. And what's really interesting, there's many interesting things here, but she has experience across multiple industries. And we're going to talk a lot about that, and we're going to smash some myths: software, financial services, healthcare, pharma, nonprofit, IT, retail. Like, she's literally touched and experienced all these different facets of marketing. So there's a lot that we can learn from her. She's also a writer and a world traveler. We'll definitely talk about travel. VP of Marketing at Confirmit, Beth Magee. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. There's so much I want to learn from you and chat about, the latest, greatest, and the fact that you've touched all these industries, and this is going to be a fun one. So this is our marketing leadership series, talking to strategists and senior level marketers like yourself, and understanding what you're looking at, where you're coming from, getting some strategies, some pointers from you. So this is going to be a fun one. And we're going to start the show off the way we start every show. And I'm going to grab this thing. It's very heavy. One second. All right, here it is. This is Thor's hammer. So go ahead, take that. Here, there's the handle. Okay, you got it? Okay, cool. So take Thor's hammer and smash for me some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, or just misconception. You want to set the record straight once and for all.
Yeah, so I think this idea of ABM being a silver bullet is totally incorrect. It's not about account-based marketing. It's about understanding the accounts that you're trying to work. And you have to be able to do that with intent data, which is what I think is the secret sauce these days. And that buyer intent data allows you to target specific accounts. So then I guess it is account-based marketing. But traditionally, and I know everyone thinks that account-based marketing was just invented a couple of years ago, but actually,
like yesterday,
right?
Yeah.
think it was something actually like 1998. But account-based marketing, traditionally, you just picked at random a bunch of accounts that you wanted to target. But nowadays, we can use that intent data to focus on accounts that are truly interested in your solutions and your offerings. So I like to think of it more as hyper segmentation for people that have shown interest rather than a guessing game.
Yeah, I like that hyper segmentation, and in distilling the myth. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh no, ABM will save us. Like I'm losing my seat at the exec table, but don't worry, ABM will save us.
Right.
And it's like, well, like there's some things in here that aren't new, but you've sort of boiled out the most important part here is that intent data. So
Hmm.
tell me about intent, because I think it's an important topic. Um, I don't know if a lot of marketers are like tuned into it, just the idea of what intent is.
Yeah, well, and it takes a lot to convince people because it's hard to understand that there's technology out there that can actually tell you what people are doing without, uh, without having to have all sorts of extra information. So
Right.
people think it's black magic is a term I've heard, and so it's hard to break down those barriers. But
Right.
essentially, what these companies are doing is using third-party data as well as data from your website and tracking at the account level activity around a set of keywords that you've identified are relevant for your business. So I think we've all heard the statistic from Forrester or CEB. There, it's all over the place, but something I don't know what the number is now. 75%, I'm guessing,
Yeah.
of people are doing research before they fill out a form, and I think it's like, you know,
Right.
they download 12 pieces of content before they raise their hand and say they want a demo or
Hmm.
want a company to contact them. And so, what intent data allows you to do is reach those companies before they raise their hand, meaning before they fill out the form. So you can get in there earlier before the RFP is issued and you're not on that list, before they've reached out to your top competitors and they've, smashed you before
Right.
you even had a chance to get a phone call. So we're having a bunch of success both on the marketing and sales side, and I'm kind of obsessed with intent data right now. And there's a lot of providers out there, but I really truly think it's that secret sauce. And I think the days of the you know just picking 100 accounts for your key account list at random are over, and anyone that's doing that without looking at the intent data is honestly just wasting their time.
Wow. Yeah, we definitely don't want to waste our time.
No.
So, but you're right. Like I guess the latest greatest ABM suggestions would be to what pick your top accounts based on how big they are and or they fit criteria, and then you
Yeah.
just kind of go try to harass them like OG direct marketing and sending them
Exactly.
things. And um, but you're saying, look, that's cool, but you may be hitting people that are just not ever going to be a fit, or what, they're not intending to buy anything in the first place, so it's like a waste of time.
Yeah, it could be they totally are just the wrong company, or they've shown no interest. So you reach out to them 10 times, that effort is not going to lead to anything. Or they could be somewhere in the middle of the buying process, where they're
Right.
still doing research, but they're not quite ready to do high touch engagement like join a webinar. They still want to be educated. So that's where it also gets interesting because you can take your content and, again, back in the day, we used to align content to personas.
Sure.
Similar idea, but rather than just persona, looking at where they are in that buying process. So if
Hmm.
they're earlier in the buying process, they want education. So ungate those assets that educate them on the what you do, why it's important to them, etc. And then choose other pieces of content for different parts of the stage. So webinars maybe later on, invitations to events later on. So that's Confirmit. That's what we're really looking to do this year is focus the different channels um, by the stage in which they're in the buyer journey. Um, and that's a big undertaking, but I think it's a really
Yeah.
neat way to look at things, and um, it's creating all sorts of fun opportunities for us.
No doubt. And now you mentioned something controversial
Uh
as a
oh.
part of that, and that was the idea of that early stage content, ungate it, take
Oh
out
yeah.
the forms,
Oh yeah.
just let people run wild with it.
Yes.
What's your take on that? Because some people say put forms in front of everything. Some people are like no forms, which I think is also crazy. But you're saying there's a certain time and place. What's the best way to approach it?
Yeah, so I think there's a hybrid model. At least that's what we're testing right now at
Okay.
Confirmit. So we were a company that gated everything.
Hmm.
And I honestly felt and was advocating for a strategy to ungate at least some content for a while, because I think if someone's coming to your website and just trying to learn more about the industry that you're working in, and you just shut them down with a form,
Mm.
I leave all the time when I have
Right.
to fill out a form. So why would I expect the people that we're trying to reach to do anything differently? And I think what's if we shift our mindset and say, okay, we ungate this asset, allow them to read it. What are the chances that they're going to go to more pages on our website and consume more content rather than just getting that one asset after filling out a form, being annoyed that they had to do that? We get a bad email address. It's just
Right.
it's encouraging the wrong behavior. So my new thing is, let's figure out, rather than what action we're trying to drive, which would be a download, a web visit, some
Hmm.
ending activity. When we are looking at building campaigns, we're looking at what action are we trying to drive, but then are we designing the experience to drive the next action we want them to take? So it's sort of a never ending process, and we're taking these next actions to bring them along that buyer journey and help them along the way.
I like that. Design the experiences to push them to take that next action.
Hmm.
So
So it's
it's
great
not,
that they
yeah. Go
they
ahead.
watched a webinar, but what happens after that? Like
What should happen after a webinar? That's a really good point.
that is a good question.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of different things that could happen. That they could get additional content. I guess outreach by sales, but again, I think you'd have to look at where they are in the buying stage.
Sure.
But it is about continuing that journey, and I think the website is very important in this, because if they can go to your website and go to a bunch of different content with ease,
Yeah.
you're going to be their friend. You're going to be their educator. So when they come time to buy something, you're going to be at that top of the list because they know the most about you and you've established yourself as a credible resource that's not just trying to get a sale.
Yeah. Yeah. Sale with some terrible form that asks you every sort of personal detail. It's like,
Yeah.
what? I don't want to tell you. I once saw one that was like, what's your annual salary or something? I was like,
Oh,
who are you? We just met. Like,
exactly. That's
even if we
funny.
hadn't just met, I'm probably still not filling out. So, if I really want to fill it out, I'm just going to lie,
Yep.
or I'm just going to leave because I'm sketched out by all their crazy fields they're asking. So it makes sense, to open things up. But I like that you're not just opening it up to say, just, okay, go to town. You're saying, okay, let's provide some experiences, but then think like, okay, you just had this free content. What's the next step we can encourage
Hmm.
that person who just downloaded that free content? What's the next thing they maybe would be interested in? So that
Right.
way you're not just leaving it. I think that's where people get it wrong. If
Hmm.
they do either or model, is they're just like, oh, put it all out there, but I have no leads. It's like, well, you didn't think about the next step. That's really cool.
Yeah. And yeah, so our hybrid model is, we've chosen 4 different content types, 4 or 5 to ungate. And then we're going to leave some higher
What
value.
kind?
Things like case studies, I think customer stories, videos, things like that. Those are super valuable when prospects are in the early stage.
Yeah.
Um, Heavier things like white papers or analyst reports, those are going to remain gated. I have to be honest, I'm a little bit on the fence about that because I would like to ungate the majority of assets, but we're going with a hybrid model first,
Sure.
and we'll keep testing things and see what works and
Right.
see how we can
Right.
drive people through the funnel.
Now, if you had your way, like your gut saying, like, would you just ungate everything? Would you just get rid of forms? Like, what would you do? What do you think
Well,
it's leading to?
well, I think it's obviously for registration purposes. You still need to have forms for webinars and events,
Yeah,
but
true.
a Forrester Wave, I kind of want to ungate that type of content,
Yeah.
because why not shout from the rooftops that you've performed extremely well if that's the case?
Oh, that's a good point.
And they
Y-
can download that report from any other competitor as well. And with the power of that intent data, I can actually see who's searching for a particular analyst report and and follow them that way, or design a campaign to target them. So it's really all of that. Uh,
Wrapped together.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It kind of brings it all back full circle, back to the intent data, because
Hmm.
it's like, oh, but I'm lacking this, I'm lacking that. But it's like, no, actually, I've
Hmm.
got the intent data. So if I didn't get you filling out the form, I know of you from your intent data.
Exactly.
So some of the people listening are probably like, well, I've never done this sort of like, I never integrated intent data before. I wouldn't know
Mhm.
where to look. Where would you start on that? You have like a first couple steps you'd recommend for people if they're trying to get intent data rolled into their marketing?
Yeah, I mean, first I would do some research and make sure you understand what it is, and that you can explain it to the people you're going to have to sell it to.
Good point. Yeah.
And then I get familiar with the different vendors. So you can do that by looking at analyst reports like Waves or Magic Quadrants, but have a couple demos and try to understand the differences between them.
Right.
Um, a lot of them are very similar, but some are quite different. And
Okay.
they offer different things, and obviously they also offer different price points. So the actual
True.
vendor
Yeah.
is going to be different for each organization and what your industry. Um, but I think, yeah, the first step is making sure that you are educated, and that once you are, that you're sure that you would be able to leverage that data in a useful way, because it doesn't really help if you are collecting the data but not doing anything with it.
That makes
And
sense.
yeah, and then also that you have the resources in-house to help with implementation, onboarding, and training with your, because it does impact sales and your SDR or BDR team significantly. So
Hmm.
they have to get on board as well.
A couple questions on that. Any vendors that stand out as ones people should check out?
So my favorite is Sixth Sense, and
Okay.
that's what we use. And I'm I think that they're the top player in the space right now.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Such a small world. I actually chatted with Latney
Ah,
on the
yes.
podcast as well. They're just like they're everywhere, huh?
Yeah.
They're like number one when it comes to like putting a flashlight on the dark web and showing you what's going on behind the scenes.
Yes, they are. And she and I were actually talking about this podcast at Dreamforce when I saw her. So we made the connection there as well. I forgot about that. But yeah, she's amazing.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. Shout out to Latney. Hey, what's up? Wow. Okay. So yeah, definitely check out Sixth Sense. And I love that you brought up, do that research, be able to speak to it.
Hmm.
As much as I'd love you to be able to say, well, I listened to a podcast, that probably doesn't fly earning you credit internally. So you gotta get some learning in there
Hmm.
beyond this sort of like, we're getting you excited here, but take that next step. And nothing like a couple demos,
Right.
hearing a couple different pitches and understand, oh, okay, I got it,
Hmm.
what the thing is. And then be sure you can leverage it. So I want to ask you about that. How do you ensure that you actually can leverage it? Is there like a question you can ask yourself?
I guess you have to ask, what is maybe first, what is the appetite for your sales and
Mm,
SDR team? Are they open to something like this? Are they going to believe the data? Because that was my biggest and still is my biggest obstacle in utilizing the data.
yeah,
I can ask the marketing team to, try to use the data, or I can say we're going to run a campaign based off of this keyword. That's easy,
yeah.
but getting the salespeople to really trust it, it takes a while, and it takes a couple kind of wins under your belt. I had a gentleman who he did not believe it. He just wanted to stick with his Excel file, and I said, okay, so he did, and then a few months later he started using the data, and he
Aha.
just this past week he got to SQL. So we were very excited for him, and he's now a believer, and then he can evangelize it. So I think as long as you have
Good.
some open minds on your team and people that are willing to try new things and be innovative, I think that's probably the first step. Do you have that culture?
Right. Huge to highlight that, because I think sometimes we can do some of our testing and our weird wizardry in our marketing labs, and no one's going to bother us. Oh, I'm testing some weird Facebook stuff. Cool. But when it comes to something like this, it's good to know that, hey, how's your relationship with sales? You may want to address that first. Make sure you're on the same page. Maybe you have the same vocab. You're doing all the right things. Then you introduce some of these things that need some of their buy-in.
Yeah, and that's funny that you mentioned that, because we originally launched a predictive analytics tool, I don't know, several years ago, when it
Okay.
was very, very new, and intent data wasn't really part of it. It was more about identifying lookalike opportunities. And we were asked to sort of keep it behind the scenes. Don't tell anyone what we're doing.
Huh.
Just provide the lists of accounts to the SDRs for them to work. But that didn't work
Right.
because they didn't know why those accounts were the ones that they should be following up with, and they had no information about what to say to them. So
Right.
because we kind of hid it, we couldn't have that conversation with sales, and the whole thing was a flop. And then we kind of gave up on it for a couple of years until we found Sixth Sense.
Wow. Yeah, I could see how it's like, that's nice. We've got some predictive analytics, but if you don't give them a reason and rationale, it's
Right.
kind of like a motivation problem. I mean, marketing's usual complaint with sales is like, you keep asking for leads, we send them to you, you don't actually call them.
Right.
So any kind of these little data points that you can actually provide, if they believe you, I could see that
Mhm.
really motivating sales to get right on that lead and call right
Yeah.
away.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Wow. Very cool. It also sounds like you have some alignment going on internally at Confirmit. Could you talk to just, how you got to that point? What's your secret recipe for that sales and marketing alignment?
I think sales leadership is very open to working with marketing. We've built a strong relationship and trust with them, so
Yeah.
they know we know our stuff. All too often you'll have people join an organization and say, oh, I have a background in marketing. I know how to do this. This is how we're going to do it, and that can be frustrating. But
And then they
once
run sales.
exactly.
Right.
But marketing is something that, we're the experts at. We went to school for this. This is our career. It's not just some, class at the
Some hobby.
yeah, exactly. So I think kind of establishing yourself as an expert
Mm,
helps build that mutual respect. Um, the head of our SDR team also reports into marketing, so all of the SDRs are part of the marketing team, which really opens up
really?
that communication between us and the SDR. So there's no barrier. I can immediately go to the SDR and say, look, here's what we need to be working on. Where historically, before they were under marketing, we had to kind of get the sales leaders approval to do something with them, and it just slowed down the whole process. So
Right.
I think that structure is working a lot better to help with the alignment piece.
Wow. And would you, in that debate, sometimes there's a debate, whether sales owns SDRs or marketing, do you do you have a vote in that matter, or what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it both ways, but I think it
Yeah.
definitely works better reporting into marketing. Which, yeah, I think they have to work hand in hand. And I think as the
Yeah.
marketing marketing's role expands, I think they will be working throughout the sales cycle and through to when they're a customer and up for renewal. Um, and to have that closeness is key to that happening. Otherwise, they're two split entities. So
Right.
the salespeople are invested in the SDRs, the marketing people are invested in the SDRs, and we share um, that love for the SDRs. And I think that helps kind of bring it together. What have you heard?
Um, I once moderated a panel, which you'd think would be fun until you realize all you do is just let everyone else talk. You're like, God, but I want to tell you what I think. It was like 4 or 5 people. Some people went one way, some people went the other way. I think it came down to, as long as you have some kind of really good alignment with sales, it,
Mhm.
it may not matter as long as there's that really strong, like I one group where marketing sat next to them, but they were owned by sales. But it was like
Mm,
the proximity was there, so
mhm,
it was it's worked. And to your point, like in either direction, as long as there's that core understanding, you're on the same page, you're doing the same thing, going after the same goal.
mhm. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I think it could go either way, but um, I find if they report to sales, they are pulled off into another direction that kind
Uh-huh.
of almost sometimes competes with marketing's objectives, uh,
Yeah.
which that's definitely not ideal.
Right. Right. Wait. Where are you going? Oh, sales kickoff. Woohoo! Fun times.
Right.
Sales can have more fun. They make more noise too, don't they?
They do.
Gongs and bells and happy hours. Marketing's like, shh, I'm
I will
optimizing my campaign.
I will say our marketing department is pretty noisy.
Are they?
Yeah, I think so. We're wild, but in a good way.
What are you having parties all the time? Are you celebrating? How do you keep it real over there?
Well, everyone sits together,
Yeah.
and they do lots of fun things in we call it the marketing room. And they play Pictionary, or they do
Wow.
interesting game with songs. So they take breaks, they hang out. They're a super close bunch. I think they've been a model for the rest of the organization. It's been great.
Cool culture. Like everyone's aligned and it's like a little marketing family. I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So kind of another question around marketing and kind of to bubble it out a little bit, thinking about that room and it's 2020 now, which is crazy. I like the number, but it's a high number. And I remember when like 1999 was cool.
Yeah.
Like what's your approach to planning that big picture marketing? Sometimes we can get caught up in the day-to-day tactical. How do you, your marketing leader, your VP, how do you sort of set that course for the whole group, the whole team, and then align that with everyone else?
Yeah, so it's tricky, but I mean, first you have to understand what your organization's goals are, and
Oh
not
yeah, good
for
point.
this year, but in the future. Where are we trying to go? Because you can't design a program without having that in mind. And you also can't work 365 days a year at a time and start over as soon as the calendar changes. That doesn't work. It's a continual process of growth.
Sure.
So understanding those corporate objectives and strategy, I think, are the first place to start, and then start mapping out how you would help the company achieve those through your marketing efforts. I think, though, a key is to connect with particularly sales and make sure that you share the same understanding of the corporate objectives and future direction of the company.
Right.
Because if you don't, you guys are going to create goals that don't align. Um,
You
so
might
once
be at odds with each other, right? And then,
exactly.
yeah, that doesn't work.
No, no. So once you establish that, I think it's a great process to have an open discussion about the goals, not that, or objectives, not that one department should be telling the other what to do or how to do their jobs, but without that open communication, to your point, you could be at odds and running off on separate paths and at the end of the day, not accomplishing anything.
Right. Huh. And then how far out do you think? Are you in like 10-year, 5-year, 3-year? Like what kind of window ranges are you thinking about?
Oh, that's funny.
Top of the food chain.
Yeah, I mean, all of that.
Yeah.
You have to think far out, but you also, in my role, because I'm both strategic and also, tactical. I'm
Getting things
building a
done.
list right
Right.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have to think in a way, day to day, week to week, campaign to campaign. But you always have to keep that big picture in mind. Otherwise, you don't know why you're building the campaigns you're building.
Right. Yeah.
And it's really important to understand where your company is going. I think from a corporate perspective and your career, but your career as well. Is that where you want to go with your career?
Right.
So I think those are important things to kind of ask yourself. And as we start the year, I'm trying to do that as well and encourage my team members. What do you want to accomplish this year in your career?
Right.
Not just the company is wonderful, but if you're not improving yourself, you're not going to be improving as an asset for the company.
Right. That
Um,
makes sense.
what about you? Do you have any tips on planning?
I love that you brought up the end goal in mind because I think we sometimes forget that. I have a little tool that I got from a guy named Dan Sullivan and strategic coach, and there's this thing called an impact filter. And the gist of it is any project, campaign, anything you're going to do, you fill this little thing out. And one of the key sections of it is when this thing is complete, what has to be true in order for this to be a success?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple bullets there that you just fill out. And I think sometimes we're like, I've done this, so just flying by the seat of my pants, and I just like, oh, this is a cool campaign idea. Let's try this thing out, and we're like testing and marketing, but we're not necessarily thinking about, okay, what result are we actually looking to get out of this thing?
Mm-hmm.
And if you send that to your team, and they don't know what the key success criteria are, you may get back a different thing out the end because you didn't communicate that. So I always like filling those things out, even if it's for myself. Like, okay, I'm about to have this really important phone call.
Mm-hmm.
What do I want to accomplish by the end of it?
Mm-hmm.
Or this year in marketing, what do I want to accomplish by the end of it?
I think that's a really good point. And what we're trying to do, and this is really my colleague Dina Otero's idea, but is to look at every campaign, everything that we're asked to do, because on my team, we tend to execute the majority of our marketing campaigns. When we're asked to do something, rather than just saying yes, because then we just have a pile of work, and we don't want to say no to everything, of course, but ask the requester or ask ourselves if we're the ones initiating the campaign or project, what is the business outcome, and is that business outcome going to support our objectives and the company's objectives. If it's not, then we need to ask why we're doing it. We can't just keep doing stuff for the sake of doing it.
True.
And I think it's really easy for marketers to get in that habit. They have more leads, more leads, more leads. And it's like, well, wait a minute, is that really the problem? And that's a very foundational marketing conundrum. But I like your strategy. I'm going to try to find that document.
I'll send you one. It's fantastic.
Great.
Yeah. And so your colleague, is that Dina, you said?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Shout out. That's a
Yeah.
fantastic point. I mean, I've even struggled with this here. Marketing, you get ideas from other teams and they're like, hey, how about we try this kind of cool, crazy idea? And it's great to have the collaboration, but it can be dangerous to just automatically start to just develop every single idea. And then you're not really getting strategic at all. You're just so busy just keeping up with your own ideas and everyone else's ideas. And then you're just sort of executing, but maybe some of those aren't tied to the business goals.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Dina actually has a great blog post coming out in a week or so where she lists out her 5 tips for planning for 2020, kind of resetting to revolutionize
Sweet.
the way that you look at work.
So. Well, by the time this hits the airways, maybe it'll be that time. So we'll have to throw that link in the show notes.
Definitely.
Yeah, awesome. Well, a shout out for that. Very cool. What's got you excited these days in marketing? I know we're like ABM is not the end all be all. Are there things are there buzzwords coming out that you're kind of intrigued by, or they're just topics in marketing that are sort of got your attention?
Oh gosh, I've been lucky enough to go to quite a few really good conferences.
Which
In
ones?
2019. So I went to. Well, I always think the Serious Decisions, the big event that they have in May, is excellent. I think 2019 was the last year, but they also had something called the Tech Exchange. This year it was in Denver at this massive hotel that was all decked out for Christmas. And they had you could do an ice slide. I did it on the last day of the conference. It was very cool. But anyways, that's called the
Now,
Tech.
are you sliding down that thing, or are they pouring vodka in the top and then it comes, I've seen both.
No, that would be fun. But no, this was just you're on a sled and you go down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really neat.
Like a luge or something.
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
But that was called the Tech Exchange. And I think
Okay.
this year they're combining the Tech Exchange with their main event. But that was hugely valuable. They're very big into talking about buying centers, which I think is a way, I'm sure we're not the only one, but we have to shift our thinking from the individual to the buying center, the buying team. Buying unit is another term people are talking about. And I attended Six Senses conference. That was amazing.
Okay.
And that goes back to that intent piece. But it was also a lot about sales and marketing alignment, how to really breathe some new life into all the teams that marketing works with, which was really inspiring.
Wow. Where was that one at? Because we
That was
keep
in
talking
Napa.
about Sixth Sense. We probably have to do that. Where did you say it was at?
Napa.
Oh, jeez. What a struggle.
I know. Yeah, my husband is little.
The hardest thing is just justifying it. Like, oh, yeah, you'd want to say like one of the towns near Napa,
Right.
Like, oh, just outside Sacramento. Like, oh, okay. All right. Well, don't have too much fun. Yeah, no worries.
Exactly.
The hills up and beyond San Francisco. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Napa. All right. Well
Yeah.
done, Latney and team.
Yeah, right. Oh, shoot. Yeah, that was an excellent event. I not only got excellent ideas from the content, but I also learned some extra tips to put together the most amazing event. But that one the content is so valuable that we're actually replaying some of the sessions for our teams internally to expose them to the sessions that Dina and I attended. So when you find those conferences that are so valuable, I mean, there's so many that I've attended that are, there's ends up being 3 sessions that are useful out of 20. And
right.
You're
like, oh, geez.
disappointing. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I love a good Vegas conference and all, but time away from family and you got work to do.
Exactly. So those 2,
Okay.
they both happened in December, but they were extremely valuable. There's also a conference coming up with Topo.
Yeah.
I wasn't really aware of until very recently, but that's all about sales, SDR, and marketing alignment. So
right.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm heading to San Francisco with our head of the SDR team. So that will be fun to spend some time.
Yeah, that'll be good. Sweet. Well, I sidetracked us because the original question was what's got you excited?
Yeah.
So all these events are happening. It sounds like that's where
Yeah.
you're getting some of your inspiration.
I really am. Yeah. Which, by the way, I think it's great to get out of the office when you can. You got to keep your skills sharp
Yeah.
and stay on top of the trends. And this has helped me do that. But I also love that there are more conversations around marketing's expansion across that buying journey.
Yeah.
So instead of just being there to generate leads, our role has really expanded. And dare I say, I think the traditional sales role has compressed a bit. Because the SDRs, the marketing's got a chunk of it, the SDRs have an even bigger chunk.
Yep.
Then you've got customer success on the back end. I think marketing spans all of that. And I'm
Yeah.
finding even in our organization, sales are much more willing to bring marketing into a deal to support with additional information that they have from analysts or content that's been written, studies that have been written. So I think just the idea of marketing expanding its role and influence is very exciting.
Right.
And I do think we need to be thinking about things differently. It's 6 people purchasing your product at a time, not just one. So that kind of blows up the idea of traditional
Hmm.
marketing.
Yeah. Right. Right. It's a whole little village you're trying to convince, and each one has their own desires and needs
Yeah,
and requirements, and yeah, there's
yeah,
more to it. But finally acknowledging that it's like you said, either buyer center or a team or a unit
hmm,
makes sense.
yeah.
Have you bumped into chat or anything like that? I've seen
So
that
yeah,
really kind of just blow up lately in B2B world.
yeah. I've we've done a few recent demos actually.
Oh, cool.
I'm not sure yet where I stand on chat because I think it can be intrusive at times. I
Right.
would love to, and I'm sure there's a company out there that does this, but maybe after you could set rules, maybe after they spend 10 minutes on the website, you ask them a relevant question based on
Yeah.
what they've engaged with, or after the second visit to your website, something like that. But when I get on a website and within 5 seconds they're popping up and asking me what I need when I don't even know what I need yet, it's annoying. I will
Yeah.
say, I was on Topo's website looking at this event in San Francisco, and the chatbot popped up and said, "Oh, do you want me to help you justify the airfare to get from Charlotte to San Francisco?" And I was like, okay, from a marketer's perspective, I just need to understand if you are a computer system or if you are a human being. In that case, it was a human being. But can you imagine if at some point we were able to pinpoint people and tailor the conversation to specifically where they were in the world? I think in a chat situation, I think that would be really interesting.
That would be interesting. Yeah, and I, I see it as one of those things where I think a lot of our marketing can be kind of like, leave me a voicemail, like, oh, fill out
Hmm.
my form, I'll get back to you.
Hmm.
Actually, no, sales may get back to you. Um, Now, if you indicate you want them to, they may do it within a couple of days, unfortunately,
Right.
hopefully. But if you don't indicate that, they may never ever follow up with you. So,
Hmm.
and some do, not all sales are bad, but like there's this sort of disconnect of like, I'm doing research now, I want to binge on Netflix now. I
Right.
can, in marketing's learned to give you more and more content, but like, what if you do want to talk to someone? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I see that like more and more
Sure.
companies are doing that, but you're right. It can be intrusive, and it's like, but I'm not right now. I don't want to talk to anyone. So don't harass me,
Yeah.
and kind of the balance of the two.
Well, that's an interesting data point too, though. If they ignore your chat or say that they're not
Yeah.
interested right now, that's an indicator that perhaps they're just there for education purposes, and that information should be used to fuel how you talk to them going forward.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think what it does is it connects us a little closer to them.
Hmm.
But also to your point, you need sales and marketing even more aligned now, especially if they're going to be on the chat for
Yeah.
you. I've seen that happen a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think chat's been around for a while, so just like ABM, it's not like, oh, it's new. I mean, in the
Hmm.
B2C world, we've been using it for like decades, right? Oh, do you have a problem with your shopping cart? Let me
Right.
address that. Here's a coupon code, make a
Right.
purchase, but to have the B2B world potentially start harnessing that, I think there's something to it.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I do struggle because we tried chat for a while. I struggle a little bit with who's gonna man the
Yes.
chat, you know,
Yes.
because it's more of a call center type function, um, and that's not always where marketing or salespeople want to sit, or want to have in their list of responsibilities. So I haven't solved that yet.
Right.
But I think there are some of these chatbots that can kind of have a conversation, a basic conversation, until they, find out that you're really interested in something specific, and then can connect you to the most readily available person,
Right.
human being.
Right.
But yeah, we struggled with resources to be that live person responding.
Yeah, like who's going to talk to them? Yeah, totally. One of the folks we talked to on here, Craig and actually Sean from the qualified team. I don't know if you've seen those guys.
Hmm.
But what I like is their approach a little bit better, where it's not like, oh, let's do bots are going to save the world. No, people don't actually want to buy from a bot. Maybe
Right.
they'll get a question answered, but if you want to talk to a human, you want to talk, like, you don't trick me and that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
what I liked about what they had said was, um, bots can't sell and humans can't scale. So you need to sort of intersect the two.
Yeah.
And in if you can read a cookie, read some maybe intent data or something
Hmm.
else, in my case, read pardot cookies and know,
Hmm.
okay, this is that VP you're trying to connect with. Like what we've done is actually connect them right with the sales rep that owns them,
Hmm.
in that account. Whereas if we don't know who they are, we don't even bother sales,
Yeah.
because otherwise you get a lot of noise. And to your point, they get noise and then they're not going to check it anymore.
Hmm. I like that. I like that phrase from that team. That's
Yeah,
a
right.
good one.
So
Yeah.
clever.
Yeah. Very.
I should steal it and put it on a t-shirt. Be like, look what I said. He's like, no, Casey, you didn't say that at all. What about podcasts? I know we're on one now and it's kind of meta
Mhm.
to talk about it, but do you listen to podcasts yourself? And have you seen more and more companies starting to have their own content?
Yes. I mean, I can't say that I have a ton of time outside of my normal workday
Sure.
to be engaging with podcasts or TV at this point.
Right.
My kids, no.
Right.
It's just life is busy. So I think the fact that you can bring them on the road with you is really helpful. And it's a great way to, like we were talking about, if you can't get to a conference, you can keep your skills up by listening to something as you drive or walk,
That's a
fly.
good point, right? If you can't get to a conference, a podcast can help you with that.
Hmm. Um,
Um,
and I do
hmm.
see more companies doing it. And I don't actually understand why we can't just call an on-demand webinar a podcast, but maybe that's naive of me.
Yeah. Well, why can't we?
I don't know.
What's the difference?
I'm not sure exactly. I guess one is easier to take with you. I'm not sure. Um, but you don't always need the slideware to understand the content that's being said on a webinar. But we have on-demand webinars on our website, and we have launched a podcast recently.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
yeah, it's focused on the market research industry, and hopefully we'll do more with that, because I think it's fun to have even short segments, sort of
Yeah.
chapters, or I've heard Forrester refer to it as snackable content, where people can just get like a quick nugget. Not everybody has an hour commute to the office. Maybe it's only 15 minutes, but they can
Sure.
get, a one quick learning in on the way to the office. I think that that's really useful.
Sure. Yeah. Like, different people like to consume in different ways. And
Mhm.
whether it's nuggets or, in our case, on this particular episode, a whole feast
Yes,
all
a
about
deep dive.
intent data and everything. Yeah, totally. Totally. Where does technology fit into all this, for you? And how do you could obviously buy 1,000 I mean, the MarkTech platform chart shows thousands of apps. How do you focus and not lose your mind with that?
That's funny. Well, so I like to, well, I know that we have one of the most advanced tech marketing stacks of,
Nice.
yes, for a B2B organization, especially of our size, because we're not humongous. We're a good size, but not humongous. And Dina actually mapped out, shout out again to Dina. She mapped out our tech stack, and it's
Shout
not as,
out.
yeah, it's not as crazy as the one that you're referring to, but it is kind of overwhelming, and all the
Yeah.
different connections that are made. I think we're at a good point, though, where we've got basically what we need. Everything else at this point would be bonus.
Right.
We don't have any huge gaps, but I'm a big believer in technology. And when I
Yeah.
moved to Confirmit, and I actually was given budget to buy technology, and there was a belief in the power of the technology and how it could help us scale and be more efficient, it was like a kid in a candy store. I didn't go
Yeah.
crazy, but I was very excited to work for an organization that understood the value of technology and marketing. And I've been very lucky in that sense. So we've gotten, you know, in my opinion, the best of the best vendors. And so, now I'm now we're kind of fine tuning, and we're
Yeah,
making sure that as we've brought on technologies and those have grown and built out their functionality, that we don't have duplicative technologies, because obviously we don't want to be double paying for something. And
so
also
true.
scrutinizing our relationships. Has that vendor delivered? Are they living up to what they've told us they would do? And if not, perhaps it's time to reevaluate. I also am a big fan of strong B2B relationships. I
Mm.
want to buy from someone that I like, and I think that that is critical. I don't have any vendors that I don't like, and if you're rude on the demo, you won't be hearing from me again.
Right? I don't care what you're selling. Don't
Yeah,
be a dummy or
yeah.
whatever other word. Yeah.
Because I think if that's the case on the demo, that's indicative of how your relationship is going to be long term. It's sort of like a first date. If that doesn't go well,
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to have a successful marriage.
Right.
I'm sure there's other situations where that could work, but I think I like building relationships with my vendors, and I think it's very important.
Yeah, you want the vendor to hold the door for you, maybe pick up a nice dinner. Wine and dine me, man. Come on. I'm not just gonna buy your app. Show me. Yeah, but to your point, it shows like potentially shows, unless they're just a bad rep, but it could be how they view customers. Are
Mhm.
they
Yeah.
just cogs in a machine we got to grind out in a factory, or is the discovery actually tell me about your business, not just because I need to do that for my check sheet, but like I really want to know so I can
Mhm.
customize the solution for you.
Yes, exactly. And so many times salespeople will come in, as I'm sure you know, and just tell you things that you already know. And that is when I just tune out. If you've done no research on my experience, or, clearly they don't have the data that they should have to have an intelligent and relevant conversation. But that's
Wow.
like they're
So
not for
they're
me.
not asking, they're just kind of, it sounds a little like challenger sale, but it sounds like it
Yeah.
wasn't the right way of doing it. They just, I know all about you and this is what you need. And
Yeah. Yeah. It's
huh,
surprising that people still sell that way, but I find it occasionally.
interesting. Well, those listening to the show, don't try that on Beth. Like that's not going to work. This has been awesome. I've been learning from you constantly here. My next question for you is like, who are you? How did you gain all this information? Did you always know you're going to be a marketer? Like, take us back, like little Beth days. You know, what what was it like? Did anything happen that was like marketing is the path, or how did you get there?
It did actually. So
Yeah,
I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I was kind of, floundering. I mean, I was in
sure.
college, but I totally did not know what to do. And then I happened to be talking to my mom one night, and she was in marketing. She recently retired, but I was talking to her, and I was like, wait a minute, this is what I want to do. This is exactly what I want to do. So
Wow. Now
yeah,
you were like midway through school.
2 years in, but I
Okay.
went to a 5-year school.
Okay.
Uh,
It was for business anyways, right? So you could easily just sort of add
Switch.
that
Yeah.
in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's really fun because I get to talk to my mom about all the marketing stuff, and she
Yeah.
understands what I'm going through. It's funny because she worked in telecommunications and field marketing and for large organizations.
Hmm.
And I remember when they implemented Pardot, and she was so mad, or maybe it was Eloqua, I can't remember, but she was so mad that she had to like track all of her activities in this computer. It was very funny. So she's not a fan of marketing automation, but
What?
yeah, I
We
know.
should send her a book. The
Maybe
book just came out on
make
marketing
it
automation.
reader.
We'll send it to her and be like, come back to us. This is a good tool.
Yeah. But I do love that I can share ideas with her, and
Oh yeah.
she understands where I'm coming from, and yeah, that what
I
happens.
imagine
It's
she
right.
had just tech aside, the core strategies of
Mhm.
understanding buyers and behaviors, and there must be so much wisdom you can glean from her on that.
Yeah. Yes, I definitely have. And also, she's helped me understand, the perspective from a much larger organization, which is also useful.
Yeah. What was that convo like later on? Was she like, I knew this was gonna happen, or was she like, really? Oh, like,
I
I've
don't
been
know.
marketing your entire life, and now you're gonna do it?
Yeah, I don't know if she ever said that exactly, but we definitely often say, "I'm so glad that you understand what I'm talking about, and it's so nice that we can have these conversations." So,
That's true. That's
yeah, so
true.
that's
It's not
great.
like
She's my inspiration. Sorry, go ahead.
no. That's awesome. So your inspiration.
Yeah, it was my mom, and
Yeah.
so she got me into marketing, and I think it's really important to try a bunch of things.
Mm,
I pride myself on being a B2B marketing generalist. I've made a specific um, a, choice not to specialize in anything. I think if you can get your hands in everything you can in the beginning, I think that will pay off a ton later on. Even if you do decide to specialize, at least you'll understand what PR does and how that works
right.
and the basics of a press release. Or on the tech side, maybe you don't run all the technology, but you know what the key pieces are of a marketing tech stack. These pieces of information are very valuable, and I think by talking to people, asking to try new things, trying new projects, maybe outside of your comfort zone, those are what
Mm.
help you grow as a person, and will help you grow in your career.
That's
So,
fantastic, and this kind of ties into one of the questions I wanted to ask you too, and maybe these are the answers too. Which is like, if you could go back in a time machine to
mhm.
yourself at the beginning of your marketing career, you just had the aha moment with mom. What would you advise yourself, knowing what you've known and experienced what all the industries you've been to? What would you tell yourself?
Ooh, oh gosh, that's really tough. I
Yeah.
don't know. That is a really tough question. It wasn't. Oh gosh. Maybe don't. I know this is going to sound cheesy, but don't sweat the small stuff.
Nice. Okay. No,
Uh,
the cheesy stuff is often usually true. Like, and it's only cheesy to people who don't believe it. But like, no, I believe it. So what about sweating? Like, how would you not sweat the small stuff?
so we're not making baby food. Well, I'm not in my job. I'm sure there are people that are out there responsible for that.
Right.
But
They can sweat the small stuff.
right. But
Right.
take it all in stride. I sometimes get worked up. I still do this. I'll get worked up because someone doesn't believe in my idea or they're fighting me on something. And rather than get all worked up, kind of just take a deep breath, because at the end of the day, it will all work out one way or another. You're going to have results, and you can use those results to, make a new argument. But it's just not worth it to get all worked up. It doesn't do any good for you, your team, and I think it's really important to kind of show that control and command to the people around you. So, yeah, I mean, I'm very passionate about what I do. And I think that that's really important and a good thing to have with any job.
Yeah.
But you got to kind of keep that in check. It's not all worth getting too worked up over.
Right. No, that makes sense. Like, have the passion for what you're doing, but
Hmm.
then don't let it just like take take control and then maybe hurt your relationships internally where you're trying to work with people.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you stress yourself out. I think that's
Yeah.
for me. It's luckily I have not hurt any relationships, but the
Right.
stress level personally becomes, it burns you out pretty quickly. And I think, we have long careers these days. Where
Yeah.
people are working very late in life, and so you got a long road ahead of you. So you got to keep those stress levels down, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things you said too, which is really, I mean, I wrote down pretty much the whole thing. Probably have to quote you on this one, but it was the fact that you're like, at the end of the day, you'll have results on something,
Right.
and you could then use those. So
Hmm.
don't freak out. It's like sales sometimes have to play the short game of like close this deal by this quarter, but in marketing, we can be deliberate, intentional, and be like, okay,
Hmm.
they're not buying in. It's right.
Yeah.
Casey knows it's right. Beth knows it's right. They said it on a podcast. People aren't listening. Okay, do what little step can you do, and then
Hmm.
get that data to then show everyone else.
Exactly. Yes. Or let them run with their idea that you don't think is going to work. I mean, sometimes
Sure.
trying things that you don't think will work is as much or a greater learning experience because maybe they will work and you prove yourself wrong. Or maybe if they don't work, you can then use that to convince someone that to try your approach or idea.
Huh. I think I could learn a little bit from that too. I think
Yeah.
sometimes, um, yeah, like if I don't like the idea, then it must for certain not be true and must for certain not be something that's ever going to ever work ever.
Yeah.
So, but maybe it will. So suspend that a little bit. Let's see what the results show.
Hmm.
Doesn't have to be my idea or someone. Let's try it.
Yeah.
If it to your point, that earlier point with Dina, if it fits the business outcome,
Hmm.
try it. See what the
Yeah.
results show. If it won't hurt us in the long term, let's give it a whirl. And it may not be my idea, may be
Hmm.
somebody else's idea, but let's try it. Even if I don't think it'll work,
Hmm.
give it a shot and give it a good effort and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I realize I have to take my own advice too.
I know, right? No, we all could. No, but sometimes even just saying it helps internalize it for ourselves. I think, sometimes teaching other people helps us, better lock it in for ourselves.
That's very true.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. So, okay, you've been in the time machine, you've advised yourself. Um, do you, and you mentioned you don't usually have much time. You got a family, they're, kids, and you're traveling too. Have you been traveling lately?
I've had one trip so far this year up to New York to see my team.
Nice.
So yeah, that was fun. But yeah, it will start ramping up as event season starts to kick off. So we will see where it takes me.
Did you mention you went to Oslo? Is that where
Yeah,
like a headquarters is at?
that is right. That's where our headquarters is. And I've been with the company for almost 8 years, and this was the first time I got to go was this past
What?
October. Yeah,
Really? Hello.
I know.
I've been working with you for a while now.
It was really funny actually because we go to the London office quite often.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And Oslo's only one more hour, but for some reason it just never worked out. But it was amazing. I was lucky to have a colleague with me who had been several times. We stayed in our separate Airbnb apartments, and she showed me how to use the train to get to the office every day. And at
Wow.
night we would go to different bars and restaurants, and they all have outdoor seating, even though it's cold. They have fire pits and heaters and these big sheepskin blankets that you can wrap yourself in, and it was really an
Wow.
amazing experience.
Wow. Oslo. So so it's outside. It is cold. Is it ever
Yeah.
warm or is it just always cold?
No, I think it's warmer in the summer, but they have very long winters, and I think they're very gray and kind of drizzly or snowy, from what I understand.
And were
But
you
it kind of
wearing
gives you this cozy feeling.
Oh yeah, I could see with like an outdoor, getting a beer and there's a fire and they're throwing sheepskin over you.
Yeah.
Sign me up. Like that could
Right.
be dangerous, right? Like, okay,
Yeah.
I had a couple beers. I'm gonna sleep right here. I'll see you at the meeting in the morning. Like, no, you can't go to sleep here, man.
No, but it is a very different experience than having like freezing rain coming at you sideways as you're trying to get to the subway in New York and you're stepping in puddles.
Ugh,
It just
yeah,
felt warmer than that, if that makes sense, even though it's often colder.
interesting. Maybe it was like humidity or whatnot,
I
or
don't know.
just. But yeah,
Just
it's like up
feeling.
there and cold and wild. Were you in like ski clothes the whole time?
No, I just regular
No.
clothes. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have no idea. I should probably add. Would you go back? Would you add
Oh
Oslo to the
yeah.
list? Yeah.
Oh yeah. And now I want to go to Denmark and Sweden. Um, so yeah,
Nice.
that would be fun. But they have all sorts of things there that help you acclimate to the snow. They even have a special closet in our office where you can put your boots and change into your shoes. Um, so, which makes perfect sense because you've got to commute in your boots with the snow, but then you don't want to wear them around all day, and you don't want to have a pile of shoes under your desk. And they have a specific closet for that.
Well, okay. So you like put your big mucklucks in the closet, and then you throw on your fancy shoes
Yeah.
as if it was just warm and friendly outside. You have
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah.
It makes sense. You wouldn't want to be like in the office in a meeting when everyone's bundled up.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow, that is wild.
Yeah.
Any other places on the list of like you kind of want to hit them up in the next years or two?
Oh gosh. Well, I would love to go to Africa. Um, but that's a huge
What
continent.
part? What
Yeah,
part?
exactly.
Yeah.
I think Nigeria and South Africa would be really interesting. Um, and I think taking my kids on a safari would be great. But I hear
Yeah.
you have to wait until they know not to run around because, or can listen and not run around because they can be eaten by tigers,
Yes.
or not tigers, lions, excuse me. But I think
By
that would be,
anything
yeah,
there. Yeah.
I think that would be a really cool experience.
Yeah, yeah, our kids are about the same age. So yeah, it's like, no, we're not actually kidding. No, like it's not a Nickelodeon episode.
No,
No, you need to say because there's like you hear about like goofy adult tourists that have issues
yeah,
with like staying in the vehicle. I'm
right.
not. You don't have to tell me twice. I'm not even putting the window down. Like I'll boil. That's fine.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
there's no fence at this zoo.
Oh man. I'm actually going to Africa.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going
Where
to
are you
Tanzania
Oh,
in
fun.
July. I'm gonna
Oh, that's
climb Mount
awesome.
Kilimanjaro.
Oh my gosh. Are you
Yeah.
training for that?
Yeah, a lot,
Oh
because
my gosh.
it's really high.
Yeah.
So
So
I'm
how do you do that? How are you training?
um, a couple ways. Like one, just losing weight because I realized that they actually have porters. It supports like the local economy. You can't
Mhm.
just do it all yourself. You pay and you have people. They'll carry a duffel bag for you. They'll set up. It's real. It's I wouldn't say glamping because it's like roughing it, but people will set up tents for you and they'll cook for you and stuff. So it's cool. You get like this whole group going up with you, so it's fun. But I realized you can hand off your day pack, you can hand off all the stuff, but you can't hand off you, right? So
True.
I need to make sure I'm not hiking more than I need to. But then, yeah, just doing a lot of walking because it's not technical. It's just like a slog. It's like I'm gonna do 8 days worth of just
Wow.
maybe 4 hours each day. So it's not even, and they want you to go slowly too. The biggest problem is when a super athlete gets out there and they're like, oh, I got this. I'm not gonna go slowly. I'm gonna go quick, and they go too quick, and then you don't adjust to the altitude and you get sick. So you got
Yeah.
to take it slow. You got to just but I'm really good at meandering and sauntering. So I'm just like, yep, heading up the mountain one step at a time, y'all. Like, I'll see you at the top, so I have no problem. I'm not going to rush at all, but I'm excited. I've never been to Africa. It's such a big continent, and you're right.
Yeah.
Like, we don't ever really get out there.
That is so cool. Well, you'll have to keep me posted on how that goes. I want to
I
see all
will.
the pictures.
Yeah. You want to go? It's in July. You got
I
any
don't know if I'm ready
conferences?
for that.
Oh, you'll be fine. Now that I've told you how hard it is, it's so easy. You'll be fine, Beth.
Maybe next year.
Yeah, yeah. I'll get you on the next one, Casey. Well, you never know. I've already mentally prepared to do it again because
Oh,
people are like, oh, tell me how it goes. I'll go on the next one. Okay, I'll tell you. Oh
very
man.
cool. Well, good luck.
Well, thank you. I'll definitely keep you in the loop on that one.
Awesome.
So tell me, where can people connect with you? They want to follow you, get some more of your thought leadership, as well as confirm it. How do they? What are some URLs? Throw out some social platforms and URLs and all that stuff.
Sure. So our website is confirmit.com, CONFIRMIT.
Okay.
I have some blog posts on there. I've also linked some of those to my LinkedIn profile, which is Beth Magee. And that's Magee. There's no C, there's no capital A.
Right. Right.
um, and Twitter, I'm Beth Higgins, or Beth Higgins, one word, so Beth Higgins. It's my maiden name. I think you could still find me under Magee there too. But yeah, and I'm connected to Dina too. She's a great one to follow. So check her out, Dina Otero, Otera. She's got some awesome content on the blog as well.
Yeah, we'll have to check that out, and we'll have to follow her too. Put her on there. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on here and chatting and sharing your strategies and your knowledge.
Well, thank you. This has been really fun. It's great to hear your perspective too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And for those listening, if you learned something, and I know you did because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, then share this with someone else and be a thought leader, just a one person or two people, or just throw it on Twitter. Maybe you thought leader to thousands, who knows? But yeah, get this information out there. There's so much that people can learn from Beth on the intent data we talked about, understanding the buying process, content, how to even get going with intent data. There's so many conferences. Maybe we'll see each other at Serious Decisions. There's so much good stuff. So get this out there and make a difference. And Beth, thank you again. This has been such a blast.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today and everyone that's listening today. So awesome. Hope to
Yeah,
see everyone soon and connect with people on LinkedIn.
absolutely. And if you do send her on LinkedIn, don't be a crazy stalker. Say, hey, great podcast. I heard you on the podcast. So that it's not like one of those random, B2B spam people on LinkedIn that I like to block. So send a nice note when you do connect with her. But this has been awesome. So thank you again. And this has been the Hardcore Marketing Show. We'll catch y'all next time. All right. A big thank you to today's sponsors, Cheshire Impact, helping marketers and sales win, maximizing the use of Pardot and Salesforce. And a big thank you to Qualified.com, the #1 live chat and chatbot platform for Salesforce and Pardot. Remember the giveaway. If you have Salesforce Pardot and you want a free copy of my book, Marketing Automation Unleashed, then you go over to Qualified.com, engage in a chat, do a demo, and tell them that Casey sent you, and that book will be on its way to your door. All right. We'll see you all in the next one.